We are recording. I want to say welcome to the first Office of Neighborhood Coordination Lunch and Learn of 2023. Welcome for everybody who doesn't know me. My name is Vanessa Baca. I am the manager of the Office of Neighborhood Coordination. Welcome to our panelists. Welcome to our attendees. Today's topic is going to talk about the Parks and Recreation Department and their pop-up park program. It formerly was known as Activate Parks, and we'll talk more about that rebranding as we go further into the webinar. For now, I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. Dennis, we'll start with you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dennis Vasquez. I'm Deputy Director for the City Parks and Recreation Department.
Thanks, Dennis. I'm very glad you could be here. Appreciate you taking the time. Next is Francesca Perdue.
Hello, everybody. My name is Francesca Perdue. I think I recognized some names there before. I was at APD as crime prevention, and now I'm over at Parks, and I do communications and marketing for the department.
Yes, and I think a lot of our neighborhood folks probably recognize Francesca from her days at the Northeast Area Command when she was the crime prevention specialist. That's when I met her. Very glad she's back with the city and working with us again. Thanks, Francesca. And last but definitely not least, we have Christina Sandoval. Christina.
Good afternoon. I'm Christina Sandoval. I'm the Capital Implementation Program Manager for the Parks and Recreation Department. Glad to be here today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking the time. Again, thank you, our attendees. We did have a quick question typed into the chat. The attendees will not be viewable on the chat, just the panelists. So I hope that answers that question. I did want to let everybody know that this session is going to be recorded. We will be uploading it to the Office of Neighborhood Coordination's YouTube channel, and I will be sending it out on Monday in the weekly e-news. I'll be sharing it on our social media as well, so please do feel free to share with other people in your neighborhoods if this is a topic of interest. So the structure is the same one we generally follow. We will start with the discussion of the topic at hand. I will moderate. Attendees, please utilize the chat to type your questions into. We will answer your chat questions at the end of the session once the panelists have finished doing their presentation. And if there is anything at the end that we haven't gotten to, please do type it into the chat. We will get to it. But with again, please, as a reminder, please be respectful of other people's opinions. We may not always agree, but we need to respect one another. And with that, we will go ahead and kick off with overview of the Parks and Recreation Department pop-up parks program. Dennis, would you like to give an overview?
Yeah, hey, we're very pleased to be invited to join you all on this forum, and we look forward to continuing interaction with you on the park pop-up program and other city parks and recreation activities. But let me tell you, this is a program that was launched a couple years back, and I'll have Christina talk a little bit about it. But let me tell you what this is about. We know that parks, people are very connected to their neighborhood parks, to their local parks. We want those parks to be, used. We want to support, not just, organized events, but like sporting events and those sort of things. But we want, neighbors and community members to take advantage of these places, to bring in activities. And over the course of the conversation, we'll tell you about some different kinds of activities that we are envisioning could happen, or that you might think that we could, host in parks. But this would be a sponsorship program where we would help sponsor with maybe with some equipment, maybe with some funding, and just overall support. But maybe Christine, if you could talk a little bit about the how this program was initiated, and then I can talk a little bit about where we are with the relaunch, and Francesca can help me with that as well.
Sure. So right before COVID, we worked with Cultural Services, or Arts and Culture now, to develop a program where we'd have $40,000 to offer sponsorships to different neighborhood associations or nonprofits or individuals to sponsor programs in their parks. And as Dennis said, the goal is to get parks more active, to potentially open up parks to different people throughout the city. Oh, I didn't know this park existed, and to really get people to think of parks beyond the kind of typical park uses. So we want people to be creative with their program ideas. So the grant, we've kind of it's been evolving over the last couple of years, and with COVID it's been a really slow launch. But the idea is that, you know, a group would come to us with an idea. We want to have a fashion show, or we want to have, you know, an ice cream social in the park, and Parks would work with them to make that happen. And when I say that, I mean, we would provide, you know, money for activities or to purchase things. We may be able to supply some activities. You know, so really we're asking that neighborhood associations come to us with ideas, but that they also are putting something into the program. So we're not organizing an event for you. You know, this isn't the old Arts in the Parks where we're coming up with a program and we're just going to different parks. This is really about getting neighborhoods to take ownerships of their parks and to come up with ideas that are appropriate for their neighborhoods with the support of the city. And so in some cases that may be us bringing stuff to you, or it may be just assisting you with your event through, you know, a monetary contribution, or you know, helping you with advertising or things of that nature. So it really depends on what fits for your park, and we're happy to, you know, discuss your ideas with you. So for instance, some have said we'd like to have a movie in the park. Well, based on the, you know, the size of the screen and the equipment needed to get into the park, not all parks are appropriate for that. So, you know, we can definitely help you figure out what kind of events work for your park. But we really want, you know, all parks throughout the city to be enjoyed and to, you know, live up to their full potential with places for our community to gather and to celebrate. So we're hoping that neighborhoods come to us with some great ideas.
Great. Thank you, Christina. One of you may address this further in the presentation, but it's a question that someone had emailed me who couldn't be here today. With this new, I believe it's being rebranded as the pop-up park program, will Parks and Rec take over any kind of special event permitting requirements, or is that still going to be the responsibility of the individual or the neighborhood?
That would still be the responsibility of the individual or the neighborhood.
Okay.
So like I said, this is not a parks event. These are, you know, events being organized by individual groups, and we're just providing, you know, some additional support to make the events more feasible.
Okay, terrific.
You know, and there may be some cases where Parks does organize something, or like if it's a movie, you know, in the park, if that is appropriate, you know, Parks would be the one, you know, paying for the movie and going through those permits. But in terms of like this typical city processes, it would still be the individual planning the event.
So for an event such as, like you said, an ice cream social, or perhaps for something like National Night Out, where a neighborhood might want something larger scale, they would still have to go through the special event process.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation.
Streamlining our process, you know, we realize that we're asking people to fill out forms, and then special events is asking people to fill out forms. So that's something we are working on. I wouldn't say we're completely there yet, but, you know, we do want to make the process as simple as possible. So that is one of our goals, to, you know, get all of these permitting processes in line so that it's not too cumbersome.
Great. I'm sure that will make our neighborhood folks happy. So thank you for that, Christina. Francesca, I'll segue over to you. What was the impetus for rebranding the program, and how does Parks plan to implement it once it's ready to go forward?
I think, like Christina had mentioned, we ran into that issue with COVID. You know, the world shut down, and it kind of changed the way that we were doing things. So rather than trying to relaunch an old program, we thought, well, what better way than to rebrand it and make it, you know, better, make it easier? What can we do? And so that's what we're working to do now. Is we're working on the rebranding and the process. We want to make it accessible for everybody, and we want to make sure that it's an easy streamline from the idea being generated to how you apply to it, to us getting out there to help support the event. So right now we're still very much so in those processes. So I had a graphic designer that worked here with me. He left, and so now I'm having to work to get new graphics designed for it. But don't worry, we are on track for that. So we have a trailer that will hold all of the supplies that we'll need for these different events. And so we're going to, you know, see the trailer around town. Hopefully we plan to get some yard signs that we can prop up at parks. We want people to know that the events that are happening in their parks are, you know, sponsored and supported by the city. And we want to be able to share that message and market it when we're already having an event, or when our staff's driving around on the street, that you see that trailer and wonder, well, what is that? And then when you go and look at it on our website, you're able to find the information, and you're able to find that anybody can host or support or generate some kind of activity in their park. And when we were in the beginning stages of this and planning it, we didn't want it just to be about recreational sports, because I think that's what we're known for, is that, you know, we have the climbing wall and we have footballs and we have basketballs and cornhole, but we wanted it to be more inclusive with this relaunch. And so our plan is to partner with family and community services and arts and culture, and we're hoping to do, you know, arts and crafts fairs or arts and crafts, you know, projects, things like that, where we do arts in the parks essentially. But also, there was a suggestion of doing a read-along where we invited arts and cultures to bring out some staff from the libraries, and we could do a read-along in the park, invite some kids out from the local schools, the local neighborhoods, and do a read-along. Christina had the great idea of doing a fashion show or doing an open mic night. It just, you know, we want whatever fits the neighborhood. And I think everyone here knows that Albuquerque is so diverse in our communities within the city that I think each little pocket has their own idea that would be helpful at their park. I think the community members know what fits their neighborhood, what fits their little local community, and we want to give them the opportunity to activate their park as they see fit. So as of right now, I don't think any idea is too outlandish or too far-fetched. And so we encourage people that once the website, and again, we are literally in the process, but we wanted to get a head start in advertising to the neighborhood specifically. I know working at APD, the neighborhood associations were big in spreading the word and getting the word out there. So I think that was our first stop in. And we want to invite the neighborhoods to invite us to their smaller scale meetings where we'll be able to go and talk to the neighborhood associations, because this is a project that we don't want it just to be led by the neighborhood associations. I know that there's already tons on their plates, but any community member can apply for these projects, and any community member can go and log in and just sign up for it. So it doesn't have to be a board member. It doesn't have to be a president. It can literally be anybody who wants to activate their park.
That's great. That's good to know. I'm sure that's going to be really helpful, not just for our neighborhoods, but for the people that live in our neighborhoods, maybe that don't have that connection with the association. And who knows, maybe it will lead to some increased connections with the neighborhood association and some new membership. So that's a great opportunity. Francesca, you had mentioned about, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christina.
I did want to add something. When the fashion show wasn't my idea, I do want to give Raina, a neighborhood association, their due. It was their idea. But one of the caveats to this program is that it does have to be open to the general public. So, you know, you can't apply for your family reunion, for instance. Like,
Okay.
it does have to be something that
I don't know. Some of these families in Albuquerque, Christina, they're pretty big.
You know, so it does have to be open to the general public. And, you know, we really are, we want all parks to be active. And so, you know, at this point, we're not really waiting applications, but if it does become successful, it may be where parks that don't have as many activities already going on are the ones that get priority. So just be thinking about that. If you have more than one park in your neighborhood, you know, maybe choose to do something in the park that doesn't have as many activities, and, you know, not do everything at the North Domingo Bacas or the Mariposa Basins that already have a lot of activity. So, you know, there are multiple goals to this program, but one is to really get underutilized parks more active. And, you know, so be thinking of your projects in that sense as well.
Yeah, and I would say, Ryan, adding to all of that, yeah, let us help you. You know, if you have like a kernel of an idea, you know, let us help you kind of flesh that out and what that might look like. You know, Albuquerque, we are so fortunate. This city is so fortunate that we have 300 city parks. You know, that's quite a large number, and 91% of all residents live within a 10-minute walk of a city park or green space. So, you know, we're fortunate in that respect, and that kind of defines, you know, the character of the city, along with the open space properties and the general, you know, landforms around us. But we know every neighborhood's different. You know, some of them have very distinctive, you know, character. And so whatever works, you know, in your neighborhood, you know, let us help you with that. There was a question about when they could apply. again, give us just a little bit of time. We're trying to make this a user-friendly, streamlined application process. That was, we found that to be an issue with the kind of the previous startup. So we're trying to make that an easier part of the process. And anyway, and again, as Christina said, we're looking for small scale activities, events that are open and free of charge to the public.
I wanted to ask about something that Francesca had mentioned when she was giving her presentation. Francesca, you had mentioned that there is going to be a trailer going around the city. Does that mean that there's going to be specific equipment or items that are going to be used for the pop-up? Can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. So from our perspective, us being Parks and Recreation, we will be providing cornhole, frisbee, football, just very basic recreational sports equipment. And I don't know that I left anything out in there, but that trailer will be specifically used for that, and we're going to use that as a marketing tool. And in there, we'll also have some, yard signs, things like that we can prop up when we're out at the parks, activating them, so to speak. So that way other people driving by, we hope that will, trigger a thought process to having people go to look up, well, what is this? What's going on in the park? Yeah. And so we want it to be very consistent. And we hope that'll just kind of spread the word on its own. And we hope people start taking pictures of the signs and start sharing it. So that way we can really activate as many parks as we can.
So one of the pieces of this is, the activation trailer will be available, and we will have a list of all the amenities once we get our website up. So you do have to apply for the activation trailer because we do have some staffing limitations, and not every event will be appropriate for the trailer, but we do want to be able to, provide activities for people to use in their parks. So if you're having, a carnival day or something, that's an appropriate use for that. But maybe if you're having, the fashion show, the trailer doesn't really make sense. We are also in the process of purchasing a portable stage. So that probably won't be here for another year just due to supply chain issues. But, eventually we could get to the point where, particularly in larger parks, you could have a larger event where you'd have musicians or, maybe a comic day or something like that. So, I think there
any hope of getting a portable pool?
No.
Oh, darn it. Okay. I was going to say, I'm going to apply for my neighborhood, but okay. Darn it.
So each event can be different. But I think the activity trailer, does provide some activities, hands-on activities in the parks. It will include some arts and crafts supplies as well. So we're trying to, kind of fine tune some of that, like what would be appropriate. So if you're having an art day, maybe those are the activities that come out of the trailer and not the disc golf. So, it's going to be kind of a menu that people can pick from. But not every event will need the trailer, and but that will be something that we can provide as part of that assistance.
Great. There had been a neighborhood a couple of years ago, the South San Pedro neighborhood in Council District 6, and they had been working with a local group to create a pop-up park. And they were looking at specifically a piece of property that was on, I want to say it was San Mateo and Catherine. It was an empty lot, and they had been working, I forget the woman's name, but she had been affiliated with a local art group. And she had put together a program that incorporated a pop-up park concept, but she had things like plants and seats that could be used for benches, because the idea was to utilize empty lots like that to get people to use them more as a pop-up park. I just wondered, for some of the city parks that don't have the same level of amenities as other, and I'm thinking actually of the Los Tomases Park that does have some amenities but doesn't have grass, it doesn't have things like that. Will there be at some point any kind of a move to bring more greenery, for lack of a better way to put it, or things of that nature, or is it just going to be things that are specific to activities, like you said, a stage and things like that?
So at this point, our pop-up park program is really activity driven. The other kind of, that was one of our discussions in naming it is, when people think of pop-up parks, sometimes they do think of that as creating a park space in something that's not a park.
Sure.
That's not what this program is, but
Okay.
just for information, Los Tomases did start construction this week, so we actually are in the process of adding grass. So we're always trying to improve our parks and add amenities, and but that's really a different process that's funded
Okay.
through the general obligation bond and state grants. This is really more about, current park facilities, getting them to be used more.
Yeah, I did that. So that does lead me to another question I wanted to ask. How is this pop-up park initiative being funded?
So it was added to our budget. As I said, originally it was part of cultural and we were kind of sharing it. Now it's a standalone in Parks and Recreation. So, it's not a ton of money. It's about $40,000 or $60,000 every year. But, we're offering smallish size grants. So, we're not funding the 4th of July celebration for the city. These
Okay.
are really designed to be neighborhood scale events that get, people to your park, using it in positive ways. And, we've also been asked about funding multiple events. So, like if you already have a growers market, can we get entertainment every week? That's probably not what we're going to end up doing, just because we do want to spread it around. So maybe, we would host a couple of the growers market events, maybe like the opening and the closing, but probably not the entire season, because we do really want to spread it around. And
Okay.
this is really it's not an effort for, the city to create these programs. It's really to get people engaged and having ownership in their parks and really, getting the community together. So, maybe you have 4 events a year in a park and we are helping you with 1 or 2, but really, these are building blocks. This is not, the city becoming event organizers.
No, and that makes sense. And I'm glad you clarified that. I wanted to ask another question. Is there a limit to how many events a neighborhood or a specific park can be applied for to be used with the program?
At this time, no, but like I said, as we're, since it is so new, we haven't had a ton of applications and we haven't had the problem of we're running out of money. But
Okay.
as the problem becomes more successful, I'm sure we'll start to put some of that criteria in place. But we do want people to think, if this park is really active already, does it need another activity? Really, we want people to look throughout the community and say, I don't go to this park very often. Why not? What could we put in this park that would make it, more enjoyable? What would get, people out here?
Sure.
So, I think at this point, we're not saying, no, you can't apply for this park, or, only 2 events can be held in Mariposa Basin, but, really we do want to spread it around throughout the entire city.
Sure. That makes sense. So like you said, smaller parks that are maybe less utilized than others. That makes a lot of sense. So something like National Night Out would not necessarily be eligible for it, because those are generally coordinated by individual neighborhood groups. But since it is kind of a city-wide initiative, I'm guessing that it would not fall under this category either.
I mean, I think it depends on how creative you're being and what you're
Yeah.
asking for. If it's, we want 50 kites so the kids can fly kites while the adults are talking, I think that's doable. Whereas if it's, we want a stage and, a band for our neighborhood night out, probably not as likely. So, really each application will be viewed on its own merits. But, we're seeing this as, augmenting neighborhood association efforts, not taking place of them. So if you already have a successful neighborhood night out, maybe that's not appropriate for you to apply for that event. Create a different event, at a different time of the year so that we are getting more use. That's really what this is about, is extending the life of the park, creating new activities, not, oh, this is our annual event, we've already done it 10 times. Let's just get the city to pay for it this year.
Sure. Nope, that makes a lot of sense to me. Did Dennis or Francesca, was there anything else you guys wanted to add to that before we jump into our panelist questions, or was there anything else just more general, specific to parks that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, this is, we're taking an opportunity here with this forum. So thank you for that opportunity. This is really a kind of an advanced notification. So everything isn't all in place and all the questions haven't been asked or answered yet. But we wanted to take advantage of, this forum to at least give everybody heads up. Hey, this is coming. And when it is, launched, which is, we hope in the near future here, Vanessa will seek your assistance in getting the word out to folks. We'll use
I'm here for you.
Other marketing channels. And then when you see Park pop up, come up on your email, you'll have an idea what that means, and you'll have kind of a head start. So I think you can start thinking about it and talking about it with, folks in the neighborhoods and then organizations that, everybody's familiar with in your areas. And then when we're ready to go, we'll start taking applications and processing those. And for this first year, I mean, this is kind of a grand experiment for all of us. So there's gonna be a lot of hand holding, probably both ways. We're gonna want to have one-on-one conversations with the organizers, maybe make some suggestions. We're gonna want to get some good input from from members of the community, how we can, facilitate this program better. Everybody wants us to succeed, of course. The city council has provided some funding, but if we can demonstrate that, hey, we've had some success in this first year, then we see this as a program that can grow and just benefit the city and the individual community parks.
Yeah, I guarantee you're going to get a lot of interest from our neighborhood associations. They are very engaged in using their parks. I think this is going to be a very successful initiative. So thank you for that, Dennis.
I just had one other thing that I wanted to add.
Sure.
I just want to make people's minds start kind of working a little bit on, then that's the marketing in me of park pop-up. And I want people to really think about it as we're bringing an event to your park and it's popping up, and it's, it's something that's not always there. It's something that doesn't always exist, but it's something that we're going to bring to your park and pop it up, and we're going to do it, whatever it is, arts and crafts, sports, band, whatever you think is fitting for you. So I just like to, have people start thinking about that of what is a park pop-up, and it's just an event that we want to pop up in your park, and it's a way to activate. And I always say this, but I blame my generation that we've taken away from human interaction and we've taken to social media. And I think that this program is going to be huge to be able to bring back that sense of community. And with the help of COVID, I think we all kind of separated. And I think that this will be a way to bring people back together, especially locally. I think that's huge in having that sense of community, because then you get to know your neighbors. And I think there's tons of positivity that comes out of knowing your neighbors and communicating with your neighbors, hanging out with your neighbors. And so I think that this will be very beneficial to our neighborhoods and to our parks.
Well, and the thing I think we all remember when we were in lockdown during the worst of COVID in 2020 and 2021 is people utilized the parks incredibly. I mean, there was nowhere else to go. There was our city parks and there was our houses and our backyards. And I think all of us had cabin fever, like crazy. I know I did. So I use my park a lot, and I use other parks too. So I this is a really wonderful way to continue that utilization of park spaces, even thank goodness that we're not having to socially distance anymore. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
And also I did add in the chat, the website, like Dennis said, it's still very much so under maintenance, but I would encourage people to take that down and just check it frequently. The wheels are definitely spinning on the program. And I would say early spring is a good time to really start looking for it to be up and running and ready for people to apply.
And I believe all of our attendees received the weekly e-news. If you do not, feel free to reach out to me. I will type my email into the chat if you don't. I can also put you in contact with any of these employees from the Parks and Recreation Department. I work with them all on a pretty frequent basis, so I'm happy to connect you directly with them. I'm going to go ahead and segue into our panelist questions that people had typed into the chat. I believe we may have answered some of them, but I'm going to start at the top just to make certain. Danielle from the Reynolds Edition Neighborhood Association says she was asking about when people can start applying, and I believe Dennis had mentioned, when was that? Not yet? Not yet? Is that So is that
Yeah,
specific
yeah,
enough?
not
Not
yet.
yet.
Francesca just said early spring, so,
Early spring.
it's, I don't want to give a date because,
Okay.
we want to create an expectation, but just know this is like a hot thing for us. We want to get this, up and rolling. So, it might be sooner than expected, but soon. And anyway, the word will be out once we get it up and running. You'll hear about it pop up, and we'll make sure that folks know about that through a lot of different channels.
Great. Thank you for that. There's another question from Danielle. Can an organization apply for multiple events at different parks throughout the city? She's asking on behalf of Off Center Arts if they're considering as a way to bring small arts events to different areas.
I think at this point, yes, and I think what would improve your application is if you were working with a neighborhood association or another group. So, maybe Off Street is hosting 5 events, but they're working in conjunction with another group. So it's kind of a co-sponsored event. But we do want to work with, nonprofits that are already out there kind of doing this work and help supplement our efforts. So short answer is yes, but I think, it's also about growing capacity for other groups. So if you can partner, that would definitely help that application process.
Great. Thank you for that, Christina. I appreciate it. There's another message that was typed into the chat. It was typed in from Sandra. As every panelist is aware, the issues in our neighborhood parks, I'm specifically speaking about Wilson and Jack and Jill parks. My question would be, how can we get the city to keep up with cleanliness and disinfecting of the equipment that is already in the parks? We are highly encouraged that this program will be utilized this summer, but safety for the children continues to be an issue.
Yeah, that's obviously safety and security, throughout the city is a major issue for everyone, certainly for the Parks and Recreation Department. We're doing our best, and thanks for pointing out those parks that we're familiar with the situations at those specific parks. Yeah, our staff is tasked with, a lot of, day-to-day maintenance, and sometimes, special situations happening in certain places that draw our attention from kind of day-to-day maintenance. But thank you for that reminder. Know that we're committed to providing, safe and, clean environment as much as we can. I mean, that's in everybody's interest. But, but thank you for that reminder there.
I think
Thanks, Jenna.
something that I'd like to add to that answer, something that I've seen increase since I've been here at Parks is, I think all city departments and I think every business probably across America are facing staffing issues. And so I think that's something that, we're faced with. As Dennis had mentioned, we have, just under 300 parks in the city. And what I've seen an increase in is, people really taking it into their own hands in their own communities. And that's something that we can supplement through our volunteer program of setting up a cleanup in your park. If you want help, if you want to organize something, I think it's just having the amount of hands to help clean up parks. And so I think if we really take it on as a community effort, we can see a lot of success with that. And we have our volunteer coordinator here at Parks and Recreation, and we can share her contact information. But if it's something you want to set up through your neighborhood, we're more than happy to help supplement that and going out there, providing gloves, providing trash bags, and helping dispose of it. So if it's something you're interested in, definitely get in contact with us and we can help you with that.
And my office can help as well. We've helped other neighborhood associations work together, contact other neighborhoods that are in direct proximity, and they have coordinated park and public space cleanups between 2 and 3 associations. So if that's something of interest, again, please reach out to my office. I'll be more than happy to put you in contact with associations in your immediate area that would probably be willing to partner with you on a cleanup effort. So just keep that in mind as well. So moving on to the chat questions. I believe this is from Cheryl Gerwin. Thinking of saving funds for more underutilized parks, but liking some of the ideas for our park, would our neighborhood association be able to access some of your resources to book ourselves, as an example, read along in the park? Is there a contact person to research if we can do it on our own?
So I think, some of these we're going to be partnering with other departments. So for instance, for like reading programs, the summer lunch program and arts and culture already do summer reading programs in parks, or as part of the lunch programs. So I think one of the tools that we're going to end up developing through this is kind of a list of vendors or services. You know, if you want to do bands in your park, here are 3 or 4 that, you know, we found to be successful or that have reasonable prices. So at this point, I'd say you could contact us and we can try and get you, you know, aligned with the right people. We're happy to do that. But we're still developing, you know, those contacts. But I think, you know, that's also something that maybe we can talk to Vanessa about is, you know, that there already are a lot of activities offered by the city, whether it be family and community services or arts and culture, you know, that people just don't know about. So if there already are reading programs in the park, you know, how do people find out about that? So, yes, we're happy to help you do that. And then, you know, maybe you don't need the funds, you just need some contacts and we're happy to work with that. But we would still like you to fill out the form so that we know when that activity is happening so that there aren't conflicts, you know, like there's soccer out there when you think you're going to have a reading program or something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that,
Again,
Christina.
this is good.
I'm sorry, Dennis, what? I'm sorry.
No, just to follow up on what Christina just said and to maybe further answer this question. Yeah, you know, this is we want this to be these to be community-led events. You know, as somebody said, we're not going to be the event planners. We'll be there to support and offer assistance. But you know, the more it comes from the neighborhood, I think that there's just more ownership of the event and of the park, and
Sure.
you know, more. You know, we want people to be active citizens. You know, so this is one way to activate their citizenship. To take use these public spaces for these events. You know, that provide some public good.
It's true. I always tell our neighborhoods, you know, you are the expert on your neighborhood. You know, the city is here to help and facilitate as much as we can, but we don't have that hands-on expertise about each and every neighborhood that the people who live in that neighborhood do. So that's a very good point. Thank you for that, Dennis. Moving on to, go ahead.
Sorry, but oh no, I was just going to add that I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes on the neighborhood association boards, and that's why in the beginning of this I had offered that we're willing to go to your neighborhood meetings. I know a lot of neighborhoods have their association meetings, big meetings with all the neighbors pretty frequently. And so if you want to put us on your agenda to go over there and personally invite your neighbors, we will. And we'll share this information with them as well and kind of put it back in their hands of reaching out to us to help organize and help support these events.
Well, maybe these neighborhoods can have their meetings in the park and then invite Parks and Rec. There's an idea. Just throwing it out there. Thanks for that, Francesca. So moving on to our chat questions from James Griffey. Hi, Jim. I love the idea and would welcome more park utilization, but I need to note that our park, which is Noreste, is already suffering from some maintenance neglect and might be even more stressed if the park utilization increases. Any thoughts? And I wonder if Dennis, you might want to address that.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for bringing up your park specifically. Again, with the 300 parks, we're trying to do our best with each of those. But I like when people are specific about a park because we can actually go out and look at it and put a different set of eyes on it. Like I'll probably go out and visit Noreste Park here pretty soon and check that out, and then I can talk with our park maintenance staff. But part of this would be if we're going to sponsor an event or know that an event is happening in your park, we will probably go out there the day before or some days before to make sure the park is cleaned up and safe and welcoming. So we'll work with individual parks and associations. So so thank you for that. We know there are lots of parks out there, and lots of parks have various needs. We're trying to we have lots of active projects now. I mean, lots of big projects and smaller projects, and we haven't gotten to every park, but that's the continuous challenge, right? We're trying to provide these places and at the same time keep them well maintained and welcoming and inviting for neighbors.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Dennis. I think this was typed into the chat for everybody to see. This is a message from Danielle. Folks want to utilize a park in the downtown area. The downtown ABQ Main Street is open to discussion on partnership. They're working to plan more activities in the downtown this year. And everybody can send Danielle an email. She's put her email in the chat there. So thank you for that, Danielle. I really appreciate it. I know downtown Albuquerque Main Street does a lot of work. So that's a wonderful offer. Thank you for that. Okay. Cheryl, I hope everybody, Cheryl, I hope we answered the questions about needing the contacts that you had asked for in the chat. If not, just go ahead and type in another question and we'll be happy to get to your question on that.
And you can also email me directly about what some of your ideas are, and I can, see if I can get you to the proper contacts in other departments. Happy to do that.
Would Christina and Dennis and Francesca, would you all mind typing your emails into the chat for all of our attendees? That way they have that information. And of course, our attendees can contact my office as well. I can put you in contact with Parks.
And I did want to add something real quick. When the application does get opened up again, there is some questions on there that have raised some concerns, for instance, like insurance. So we would prefer that if your neighborhood association or your nonprofit has insurance, that you do provide that information to us, but that won't preclude you from having an event if you don't. So, we don't want to make this overly cumbersome, but we do, want to protect the city's liability as much as possible also. So, the question is, do you have the ability to have the insurance? If you put no, that does not mean you won't get funding. So, fill out the form as best you can. And if there are issues that arise, we'll try to work through them. We're not trying to, limit groups or people's ability to host things. But we have to make sure that we're, checking all the information also. And as part of that application process, if we do think a park is inappropriate, like it's too small for a movie or, there is overuse, we'd likely work with you on finding an alternative location. So just because someone puts in an application, even if it's a good idea, that doesn't mean we're automatically gonna approve it. So, we may refine it and say, this is a great idea, but we don't think this aspect will work. How about if we try this? So that'll be part of the process as well.
Okay. And Christina, I can probably tell you with pretty good amount of accuracy, the vast majority of our neighborhood associations probably do not carry that insurance that you were mentioning. A lot of them are, limited in their financial resources. So just so you know that. So that's good to know that they won't be disqualified for that reason.
But if you have it, that's even better. So
yeah. Great. I did get a question sent to me via email that I wanted to ask about. What would the city be addressing any kind of safety issues that come up as a result of having a pop-up event? Is that something any of you can assist with, Francesca, maybe, or?
Well, if we know there's an event there, again, we'll probably want to make sure the park is prepared for that event. And we do have, through the Albuquerque Police Department, PSA, public safety assistance, or aides, I guess. We can assign them, or have them assigned to be active or present in some of these activities. So we typically, notify APD and do their PSA program about any kind of events. That way they know there's something in that neighborhood to do some extra presence there.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose that's part of the overall idea as well, is to get people to engage with their city parks as a way to further utilize the parks, but also to help with any potential safety issues that come up. Because as we all know, a park that's not used regularly tends to unfortunately become a place for criminal activity.
Along with using our other city departments, partnering with APD is perfectly appropriate as well. So if you wanted to have a coffee or, chat with an officer day, or you want to have, a baseball game against the cops in your beat or something like that, like those would all be cool things. And, it may be a way to get, citizens feeling better about police officers and, getting some of those personal connections versus just, oh, I see them in their cars or whatever. So those are kind of events, we would love to support as well, like working with AFR or APD, having a barbecue to honor public safety and, will help with some of those activities.
It's a really good idea to consider having a coffee with a cop at a park as one of these types of events.
And maybe it's beyond coffee, like they're on the baseball team with me and hey, I didn't know that we had a similar interest, or, a bicycle event and, the bike unit comes out and helps kids fix their bikes. I mean, we want people to be creative.
Well, I think you're in the right place. We have a lot of creative people in our city, for sure. I think you're going to see some really cool events once this is up and running.
Well, and I think the whole idea behind this too is that we all, if you've ever participated in a national night out event, you see how successful it is and how it brings out the community, but that happens once a year. And I think to really activate a park and to really utilize the park for what it's there for what we're investing in, it needs to be something that's utilized. And I think around the city, we have multiple parks that are not as used as frequently, and we need to just really activate that and start utilizing them. And this is one way to get people out there to use them. Mm-hmm. And as I learned in crime prevention, that's the number one way to keep crime out of your park is to use them. Yep. Everyone used to judge me because I used to say that you bring something good into the park, it's going to push out all the bad. And it really, I've seen that happen where, if you're using it, if you're having a barbecue, if you're having a neighborhood meeting, birthday parties, things like that, if it's being used for something good, you usually have a good positive outcome.
That's great. Thank you for that, Francesca. Did any of our attendees have any other questions? This is the time to type them into the chat before we wrap up. Thanks, Danielle. Did any of our panelists have anything else that they wanted to add, either about this specific question, this specific initiative, I should say, or anything general related to parks that they want our neighborhoods to be aware of?
Well, I'll just, take this opportunity just to do a little public service announcement just about, city parks and recreation. We manage lots of different functions and divisions. So there's the aquatics division. We have 12 aquatics centers and swimming pools and whatever around the city. We have 4 public golf courses. We have a recreation division where they're mostly headquartered out of the Balloon Fiesta Park, where of course a lot of activities happen. But they also organize lots of outdoor recreation activities in parks and other places around the city. And we organize some big, some big sporting events that draw a lot of people into the city to help the local economy. And we put the hotel and restaurants and service industry benefits from bringing in a national bicycle event or a big track event at the indoor track and field over at the convention center, which is a track that we manage and maintain. So anyway, we do those sorts of things. And then in addition, the character of the city, I said this earlier, the landscape of Albuquerque is what draws.
I'm sorry, Dennis, can you maybe lean a little closer to your microphone? I couldn't quite hear you. Yeah. Thank you.
I was just going to say something, our open space. So I'm talking about, like Foothills area, the Bosque, the West Mesa, the volcanic landscape there. A lot of that is owned by the city and it's managed by the Open Space Division, which is a division of the Parks and Recreation Department. So I know in the most recent citizen survey, people were asked, what is it that they like about Albuquerque? And that answer was this access to these outdoor spaces. They like the Bosque, they like the foothills, so those are areas that are managed by the city on behalf of the citizens. So I just want to remind people that then we talk about 298 parks and all sports fields, softball fields, all that sort of thing. So we're engaged in a lot of different ways, and we're engaged in the quality of life business. I think the activities and the facilities and services we provide, we hope are providing and elevating the quality of life in the city. So we want to what the community is engaged. We know the community is very engaged in all these recreation activities, but we want, I'd like, everybody on this call to know that we have a lot of dedicated, public servants out there that are trying to do our best to maintain and to keep these activities going in our city.
Yeah, we do have some very good park staff. They do a great job of keeping our parks up, and I appreciate I think we all appreciate the work that they do. So please thank them all on our behalf.
I think I'd like to add really quick, if you are in the social media world, that seems to be the way that information is shared now. But the City of Albuquerque Parks and Recreation, we do have a Facebook page, an Instagram, and a Twitter, and I would encourage you to follow them, one or all three. And that's where we push out majority of our information, and that includes any updates that we're doing, projects that are kicking off or finishing up, any upcoming events, recreational events, things like that. So I would really encourage you all to follow us on one of the social media platforms.
And if you have, items you'd like for us to share, like, this is a great thing about our park, or we have a story, that is exciting about our parks, we'd love to be able to share your stories as well. So, as people have said, your parks better than anybody. So if there's, like, oh, there's a cool hawk family living in this park, and we want to celebrate it, like, let us know that stuff, because we want to share those good stories too. And one last thing, part of what we're trying to develop with this program is an end of event survey. So, we are asking that as part of this process that you do let us know, like, how successful your event was, what worked, what didn't, how many people attended. That helps us for our matrix, but it also helps us, develop a better program as the years move on, like what kind of programs are successful. So, that will be one of the asks of you, along with helping to organize it, is also to provide us that feedback loop, so that, this program just gets better and better every year.
Sorry, I was muted. I for one, am very excited about this program. I'm sure our neighbors are as well. I've had a lot of people express interest in this, so this is really great. Something for all of us to look forward to in the springtime. Thank you all so much for taking the time. Thank you to our attendees. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Dennis. You guys have been wonderful. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to hear about the pop-up park event. And again, please utilize my office if I can help spread the word for you. We communicate with all of our neighborhood associations citywide, as well as a significant amount of the public, and we have our social media channels as well. So we're happy to promote it in as many ways as we can.
Yeah, and visit your the other events throughout the city as neighborhood representatives. That might give you some ideas. So, like we said, these need to be open to the public. So, don't limit yourself to parks in your neighborhood. We want you to go everywhere and enjoy all aspects of the city.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.